Hello, geeks and peeps, and welcome to Barely Reviewable, a podcast where two brothers review films, shows, games, and you name it. I'm here with my co-host and my brother, Addison Ellis. How you doing, Ed?
I'm doing well, bro. I'm doing good.
We've recently seen two films, both uncomfortable in their own ways, but both very good in their own ways. So the first one on our docket is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Great title.
So... Oh, yeah. It is quite accurate of the description. And I must preface this, too, that we're probably just going to go a little bit into Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, because it is such a crazy film, and I don't think we should spoil the entire film. I think we should let audiences watch as much as possible of it. But yeah, we'll go from there. So what happens in the film?
A Chinese American wife and mother is being audited. Her a laundromat is being audited by the IRS, and she has to deal with that, plus fussy customers, plus her husband, which seems to lots of indicators that they're in a very unhappy marriage, and he might want out of that marriage, and her daughter trying to get her girlfriend to be more involved in their family and trying to get her family to accept her girlfriend as part of her family. And then also she's dealing with her father, who's all kinds of not the most pleasant of individuals and stuff like that. That's part of the everything and all the stress and stuff like that. And then some interesting things start happening. Weird things start happening. And it starts setting off a chain reaction of changes for her in her life.
Mm-hmm. She realizes that she is the one, the Messiah to saving.
I didn't want to get into
them.
Spoils.
But let's just set that up. Let's just set that up. Yeah,
yes,
that's pretty much the setup.
Yeah, she is the special. That's what she finds out.
Yeah. Yeah, so like overall, what did you think of the film? I think that was a pretty accurate description, but what did you think of the film?
I really loved it. I know I haven't seen too many films this year so far, but thus far it is my favorite film of this year. We'll see where it stands, as the December rolls around, but it's not something I'm going to forget anytime soon. That's for sure.
Oh, completely. Yeah, I would agree to that as well. Again, how many films? We've probably only seen like 3 films so far. There's not really much coming out yet, but yeah, by far. Yeah, like by far, if you're looking for like a really just original film that has a lot of fun elements and like really great action and acting, and a lot of deep character drama and relatable character situations, I think this is the film for you. I would say this is definitely a millennial film. It does feel like millennials directed this thing, because it is unabashed in its raw childishness and cynicalness at times, but wacky, weird, pseudo-sexual.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to say is that, we say it's, again, there's something original to it, and then we just describe, well, she finds out that she's the one. Okay, that is one of the main, draws of the premise, but there is a bunch of stuff that they do around that and with that make it are like really surprising and interesting. We should say that because everybody's seen like they are the one, they are the special, the prophecies foretold, all that jazz. But no, again, the way the directors handled it and just again, like you were saying, like wacky creative choices and how they are often. They're crazy, but it's not like lol, so random kind of humor stuff. There is something, I think, a lot of arguments to be made as far as like, okay, this ties into this thematically. It's not just for the gag. It's something that speaks to something larger in the film. Again, it's working on so many levels.
Yeah, the wackiness is in service of the craziness of our lives, essentially. It's just all these insane things that we see in the film are kind of the just the like a metaphorical insanity that we all witness as we go through our lives. And it's more or less of focusing in on what matters to the main character and her family and kind of bonding and growing from that. The film is not completely just wackiness for the sake of wackiness. Which is pretty amazing. But yeah, no, this is the directorial duo of Daniels. They did The Swiss Army Man, which I really still love. It's probably not as well rated as this. I think it was on Rotten Tomatoes. This currently, Everything Everywhere All at Once has a 97%, so it's actually pretty dang high on Rotten Tomatoes currently. So a lot of people are clearly liking it more than that. But the duo, this and with Swiss Army Man, they have definitely stylistic similarities, but they primarily have that juvenile but yet sincere quality to them, which I think really brings about the humanity.
Because again, it's like
in both of their films.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like things being juvenile are tied to a deeper thing with the character. Swiss Army Man, holding in your farts and being afraid to fart in public. That is a thing about, again, the dude's openness and acceptance of himself and who he is as a human being, as a person, and all this other stuff. And again, they focus in on something that would otherwise be like just a throwaway gag, and no, there's a whole thing going on, especially to the character's reactions to it. And there's, again, lots of wackiness, lots of craziness, but there is clearly a point to it. It's not just there for show, and I love that so much, because it just they keeps taking turn after turn. You think where it's gonna go, and then it just throws another curveball at you, and it's like, what the hell is going on? And again, it's a really good script that is so stinking emotionally complex too. I can see people. I think Grandpa actually reacted kind of negatively to this. My grandfather did. Because it feels like, okay, there's like so many possibilities for endings, but the reason why it feels like that, I think, is because the simple ending isn't the answer to the thing, and they keep finding new complexities to each scenario, as far as the main character's relationships, and it's like there's not a simple answer. Things are just complicated, and they require complex resolutions. So, yeah, I'm like, that works. Yeah. It's a smart script, I think.
Yeah, smart script, smart direction. Again, there's a lot of creativity. Both directors, they really bring something, just vision-wise. I mean, these are the guys who directed the Turn Down for What, so their directions, their directions could be insane. Yeah. Makes sense. Regarding whatever they do, so
makes a lot of sense. That detail.
Exactly. So I guess we can talk a little about the spoilers and such, just like this different elements that we enjoyed and kind of want to talk about. I know.
Again,
really, this is
I do want to just before we go again, if you haven't seen it, please go see it. If you want to, hey, you're gonna listen to us talk about it, you're gonna listen to us talk about it. But as far as the spoiler bits, it's a real. It was just such a joy to see things unfold as they do. So that's all I'm gonna say. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Exactly. But no, one of the I guess the best elements is the performances. Primarily from, what's his name? Oh my God, it's Short Round. For anybody who's wondering, it's Short Round.
You've been telling me his name repeatedly. What is his name? Come on,
Ke Huy Quan. I know. I think his actor Americanized name is Jonathan Ke Quan.
Immediately apologize for your pronunciation.
Yes. So again, my apologies for any
mispronunciations. Yes. No, he's great, and again, as the story progresses, he's playing different versions of himself and reacting to, again, both subtle and grandiose events. And again, he's got so much. There's a lot of nuance in this stuff. His performance.
Oh yeah. Well, another thing I really did like too is that you can still see a lot of that child spark from his earlier roles. He still has that short round energy to his performance in the sound at times too, which is quite fun.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not like turning like, oh, the old fogey just kind of phoning it in kind of thing. No, he is bringing it, man.
Oh yeah, and then we got Michelle Yeoh, who does a good job, I think, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, really solid. Apparently, it was originally supposed to be Jackie Chan in the role, but they ended up flip-flopping it gender-wise to a kind of a mother and daughter dynamic.
I honestly like that a lot more. I think Ian and I talked about this a little bit, but we also recently watched, is it Seeing Red, the Pixar film?
Turning Red.
But in that one, again, similar dynamic as far as, again, Chinese mother, Chinese American, or Chinese Canadian in that one, daughter. And again, the kind of the rift between them and trying to understand, different perspectives on womanhood and stuff like that. What I liked here is the focus on the mom, because a lot of media we get, especially regarding, Chinese American artists and stuff, and they reflect on their mothers and stuff like that, and we get that it's almost like a trope that comes up again. The Chinese American mom, like you're getting fat means I love you kind of thing. That kind of that I've seen that in a lot of books and stuff like that. You see that in a lot of media. It's really fascinating to see that character be at the center of the story, and we understand her struggles more. And in this case, again, that they make her just so you feel for her. She could be so stinking frustrating sometimes, especially when she's interacting with her daughter and missing all the important stuff as far as with her husband and stuff like that. But again, she's still sympathetic, and how she changes and stuff and grows. I found myself really rooting for her, and again, it's just you don't see that as a main protagonist, character too often.
Exactly. And man, what should we talk about next? I don't know. I mean, again, most of the cast is great. Of course, they got a veteran actor, James Hong, who is amazing in everything he does. He is wonderful.
He plays her father.
Yeah, the grandfather.
He's always good as grouchy old man.
Yeah, he's been playing that for like 50 years.
50 years. Maybe. It's maybe a little bit.
And he plays it so well. You never get tired of it. But no, he's great. Of course, Jamie Lee Curtis is in there too. She's really fun. Some kind of Brooklyn sounding old grouchy IRS agent. She's really just done with life.
Grouchy IRS agent may be redundant.
Yeah, they're all pitiful.
No, yeah. Not pitiful, but they probably aren't super pumped about working at the IRS. You're dealing with a lot of unhappy, angry people.
Yes, exactly.
And not making their
you're
lives,
ruining their lives.
Yeah, you're not making their lives necessarily easier.
No. But let's talk about the action in this too, because kind of going off of, again, just like the creativity, there's a really a large swath of action in this, and on a measly budget. I think it's only budgeted at was it 26 million?
Really?
No, 25 million. It's already made its budget back, actually.
Holy crap!
Yeah. So again, I mean, this seems, for such a weird film, it seems to be getting a lot of traction, which is great. It's just kind of astounding that, again, how much really great choreography they had in this film. And there's just like a lot of nice inventive shots, a lot of, I don't know, it doesn't seem like they cheaped out, really.
No, it didn't. And again, some of the early action sequences with, is it Lee Kwan? Let me make sure I have that right. The short round. It feels so good.
I love how you. I love how you.
I'm not good with names, man. I have trouble with
Key. Is it K or Ki Hu Kwan? It's Ke. So Ke Hu Kwan, I suppose.
The very talented fellow. No, his
short round.
I don't want to
say short round.
It's just so rude. I'm so sorry. But no. I found it like the opening action sequences. It was okay. But as things get crazier and the madness kind of starts settling in as the norm, that's really where it started spiking for me. The fights with again, I don't know how much to spoil. The fights with certain characters that suddenly gain like super strength and abilities, and like, okay.
Well, there's a clip of Jamie Lee Curtis fighting online. So there's one scene where Jamie Lee Curtis got super strength, and they have to fight her.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So that's kind of a popular one.
That's a lot of fun, and there's, again, like you say, a lot of creative sequences and nice ties with pacing, with music, with, again, the performances and the actual choreography itself. Again, it's just really wonderful, fun action film, and it continues like that until about the halfway point, and suddenly there is a reveal, and things never quite get back to just that kind. It's just like a fun, kung fu action movie. No, it becomes something else. It adds a little bit of extra spice to that, and it never settles back into that kind of like, okay, this is just going to be a good action film. That's fine, but no, it's something way more. Again, I still don't want to spoil it, even in spoilers. It's really
no. I don't.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, we're being coy on purpose. But no, you will cry. This is a film that will make you cry, possibly multiple times.
Well, it always depends on the person. I will say again,
that's fair.
It definitely made us think of our dad, and
I can see that.
It's, again, I think for anybody who's got a parent that, again, their whole, and people outside of it can certainly sympathize, I'm sure, but or empathize in some level, but it's just that concept of having a person in your life that really just promotes good and happiness and is trying to add to light to this world, even in just the smallest of ways. And I think a lot of people definitely relate to that. And again, you may cry. I'll say at the very least, you may cry, because even though it's an action film, again, that center is just so sincere and filled with very relatable drama and confusion, misunderstanding, and pain. And it did hit home for me a number of times, and I'm sure for a lot of people it will do the same.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And at the heart of it, it is a interpersonal family drama.
Yeah.
And again, I think that will resonate with a lot of people. And if you're able to see this film, I'm guessing it's probably nearing its run in theaters. But if you're still available to see it in like a $5 theater or later in the evening, if it's still playing, and even in like one small theater, go see it.
Yeah.
I would say. I think it's wacky. It definitely has more of those younger generation sensibilities regarding some of the content, but it's not overly coarse or graphic or anything in that regard. It's honestly, it's probably the more family friendly than I've seen. There's only a couple scenes which are a little bit pushing it, but it is.
If it's coarse, it's mostly for a gag or something, and it's not like gratuitously so.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. It's more. It's childish. It's like a youthful. Like it's like if a kid teenager were to come up with a stupid gag, but
yeah,
they didn't overly get graphic with it. It's
yeah.
just kind of
Okay, like for instance, there I won't spoil too much again. Well, we are being very coy, but again, we really want people to see this and experience this film. But there's a scene where somebody has their pants off and they're naked, but they blur is the dude's groin out.
yeah.
So I mean, again, there is a certain like thinking creatively of like it's not about that. It's about what's happening in the scene that's funny. You know,
Yeah.
it's not about the actually seeing the naked human body or talking about sexuality and graphic depictions or anything like that. It's
It's juvenile, but it knows when to restrain itself.
I couldn't recommend it enough, dude. Seriously.
Oh yeah.
It's not. I haven't really just felt something hit me on so many levels in a really long time. I remember again theater experiences going to see Mad Max and just being again really surprised going all the way back when I saw Fellowship of the Ring. Those are probably some of my favorite cinematic experiences, and this is up there. This is definitely in that group where I didn't know what I was going into. I just thought maybe just kind of basic action film, and it just blew me away. So, again, highest recommendation I could possibly give.
Indeed. So, go see it, and I hope you enjoy it. Alrighty, so I guess the main bulk of our review is now going to talk about our second film, The Northman, which we saw a couple days ago, just about.
Yeah, just about 2-3.
But no, this is by director Robert Eggers, who previously did The Lighthouse and The Witch, or The Vivitch, because there are two V's instead of a W. That's how it was back in the colonization days, how it's spelled.
He's a very historical stickler kind of director. Just that'll keep coming up a lot. That kind of
exactly.
Stuff,
No, he loves detail. He loves historical details and making it as accurate as possible. And he's really damn good at it. And I just hope that this film does well enough to promote more of his work. I hope he's able to do that Nosferatu film that he's been wanting to do from like day one, from what I've heard. But again, I think unfortunately due to Morbius, that awful Jared Leto trash fire that nobody saw or cared to see, I don't know if that's going to be happening or not, but we shall see. Hopefully it's not the case.
For those young people that don't know who Nosferatu is, he was an early silent movie vampire that was very popular. Ian, I have to add this. Because I am constantly shocked by,
Yeah. Well, and a lot of this comes down to the film rights. The director or the studio or whomever, they didn't get the film rights to Dracula, so they essentially it's Dracula, but they just changed the name.
And also, it's not sexy vampire. We should emphasize that.
No,
it's scary.
It's ugly bat. Yeah, ugly gothic bat vampire, and his name is Count Orlok in Nosferatu.
But this is not about Nosferatu.
Yes, yeah. So this is about the Northman.
Sorry,
I kind of feel bad because it kind of because I really just the basic review. It's very good.
Yeah, but we should give.
However, I would say
we should give a premise. Give us something.
Yeah. So essentially, this story is a revenge tale about a prince whose king father was slaughtered by his brother, and the prince goes into hiding for about, who knows, 2 decades or so, and he is driven to get revenge on his uncle, but also to save his mother, and just kind of avenge his father and give some peace to his father in that regard. And that's pretty much the premise. One fun fact about the film is that it is an inspiration to Hamlet. The original tale that this story is based off of is what Hamlet was based off of. So if you know Hamlet, it's kind of in that realm.
To be fair, it's like maybe 60 to 70% is like the story of Hamlet. It's again, the basic kind of layout of
structure.
Yeah. It's going to be Hamlet, minus the prince that goes in Hamlet. The prince is still there, of course, but in this one he's in exile for a period of time.
There's no beautifully written soliloquies about his own life and his inner turmoil. Like, he just slaughters and brutally kills and fights weird creatures.
Hamlet's not tempted by, Amleth in this.
Amlet or Amleth. Yeah, Amleth. I think it's Amlet.
He's not tempted by suicide or inaction or anything like that. Oh, what am I going to do? No, he knows very quickly what he's going to do. And if he doesn't, he seeks out people that will communicate to him what he needs to do to get his revenge.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It feels like, okay, we're talking about one culture which was, cloaked in a level of Christianity, and another culture which is cloaked in, martial prowess and war. It feels, it's very different in that way.
Exactly. And what I was kind of getting at before we talked about the summary is that I think this is a good film. However, I don't think I'll watch it as much comparatively to the Witch and or the Lighthouse. It's definitely because it. Again, not trying to do any big spoilers, but it's a basic revenge tale. So the rewatch, I'm sure there is a fair amount of material and things to analyze and little story elements that you can definitely break down on repeated viewing. But just, at least for me, in an overall sense, I am curious to rewatch it, but I definitely probably won't go back to it as much comparatively to his previous work. What do you feel?
Let me think on that. Well, it didn't impact me emotionally as much as the Vivitch or the Lighthouse. And I really like those films. And they are certainly, in my opinion, better films. But this is probably more just generally palatable to me. Like, I can see just switching the song for the sake of watching a good, like, revenge action film or something.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
because it's also his most stripped down and commercial film too.
Yeah.
This is Robert Eggers kind of like dipping his toe into the commercial market regarding his style, his writing, his type of acting and sensibilities regarding filmmaking. And so, again, the Lighthouse and the Vivitch, they're definitely they're more of his pure kind of like this going full bore, accurate and weirdly psychotic in regarding its analysis on psychological health and all this stuff. And so this one's a bit more reserved.
Yeah, I'd say.
But there's still those themes.
Yeah. No, and it's, I mean, hey, I don't want to downplay the historicity or whatever of the film. It is still very, again, trying to transport you to this different time and place. But it is the least challenging out of his films. Again, the other ones, again, I do believe there are better films than this, but I still think this is, again, quite good. But the other ones, though I again think they are much better, I don't necessarily always enjoy watching them as much. I have to be kind of in a certain mood. Because again, they are affecting. That's affecting with an A. English majors, thank you. They emotionally affect me. But so this is very much, again, less so, and it's more of like I could just chill and watch this.
And I can see that because a lot of his films, they're very depressing. A lot of the material, they all deal with like analyzing characters, their psychology. They're all about, but also kind of wallowing in the deterioration of a certain a group of people or a couple people. And again, it's kind of, this film has a bit of that. It ends kind of oppositely, but it's a little bit more of a bittersweet ending, I suppose. Yeah. But I can definitely see that. For me, I love the Lighthouse. I think I just enjoy it because it's fun to see these two guys go insane. But I can definitely understand other people not enjoying just the wallowing in insanity. And same thing goes for the Vivitch as well. That one's a bit drier regarding.
It totally depends. I think the Lighthouse, I find it kind of emotionally draining just because you are watching guys go crazy, and it's a relatively shorter film, so you're seeing this how quickly these guys go insane. The Vivitch for me, it's a heavy film, and it's again it is, you're so stuck in that oppressive atmosphere and that American Gothic. I love that American Gothic. It's just need to be kind of prepared for it. Need to ready myself. This one, not so much. Again, the thing is, it's an action movie script about revenge with a lot of elements, both in terms of art direction, world building, and just general like thematically, I guess, making it the story of Vikings that make it interesting. Again, it's kind of like B-movie script made by a bunch of very talented people.
Exactly.
At least plot-wise, B-movie script. But
then the rest of the material goes far beyond a B-movie at this point. It is very expertly crafted. The camera usage in this is really, like, there's a lot of fun dolly shots and crane shots, like a lot of one-ers.
Oh, yeah. I love me a good one-shot, man. Seriously.
Oh, yeah. But, like, if you ever, there's a really good, was it Variety that do the director and actor go over a scene, I think?
Yeah.
I recently watched theirs for the Northman, and it's kind of insane how the intro shot where the camera pans over and follows the Viking boat down, so we were introduced to the older version of Hamlet. It's hilarious because in order to do that, the rower in front of them would have to jump out of the boat so the camera can get into place to get the right angle on Alexander Skarsgård. So the guy would have to jump out and into the water. And it's just like these crazy, ambitious determination that this director has it's really astounding. And again, there's like a lot of this fun aesthetic stuff, like at night. All the color is drawn out apart from the fire, which gives color to the world, which is an interesting little effect.
Again, lots of little touches like that really make transport you. That's the whole thing. It's trying to transport you to something that this is a very specific time. It's a very specific culture that we haven't seen authentically attempted to. In depiction.
Yeah, I mean, like Vikings is a bit more heightened, even though it's like it tries to be very accurate. There's a lot of weird.
Oh yeah, especially again, like everybody talks
the show
about,
Vikings.
Yeah, the show, yeah, and everybody talks about the not everybody, but people that like to talk about the how accurate is it really? Of course, they're very much wearing like biker leather and stuff like that. When in reality, no, they had chainmail. They had armor. They had all kinds of stuff. But
one of my favorite details that even Robert Eggers, he said was that pretty much back in the day, everybody in Europe had a bowl cut. We tried it, but most of the time Vikings, they had bowl cuts. They didn't actually have. There were some, yes, they had long hair, but we had to definitely differentiate society from Vikings, so we had them all with long hair, just the kind of shorthand. Historically, most Vikings had bowl cuts, apparently.
Yeah, I think,
which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I think the because it's tied with the assumptions that I forget, not the assumptions, but thoughts that stuff that would be hidden under their helmets. Because again, that image is very notable of just the Viking approaching you. Again, it's ready for war, ready for business. It's not like trying to look good or anything. This is a job to be done, kind of. From what I've heard in various historical YouTube channels and stuff, described about other Viking related media and stuff, they get a lot of stuff right. A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Really well depicted. And again, talk about really impressive one-shots. There is, early on in the film, a battle sequence, and so the Vikings come to raid this town, and it's like, yeah, it seems about right.
Yeah.
And you get because the main character, during his exile, becomes a berserker for this other group of Vikings, and it would have been terrifying. A half-naked dude just coming at you with no armor on, they're talking about Norse people, and a lot of folks were not as tall as the Scandinavians. They didn't luck out in that genetic aspect. So you're talking about guys 6 feet tall, half naked, coming at you with axes and covered in blood, and the reactions are really like, scared. I'm very scared.
Well, actually, apparently Robert Eggers originally wanted some of them to be naked because I guess that was more accurate. And he's like, well, the MPAA probably wouldn't have liked that. So we had to just give them...
You hear about that too. They were just straight up naked.
Pure naked Viking guys running around, ripping people's throats out.
Yeah, with their teeth. It's, again, it just does a really good job of taking you somewhere else. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. You feel like you are given like a special peek into this culture that is long past.
Exactly.
But that's really the main thing that differentiates it from every other kind of revenge film. The actual, again, main character interactions are okay. There's a romance.
The romance is very that's probably the weakest part for me. I have no emotional I don't think it's a problem with the actors. I think they do have a chemistry to an extent. I think it's the direction and writing primarily.
Maybe they didn't give them enough scenes to kind of build that relationship up.
Yeah, and in a way, it might be an issue the way the actors portray it, because they're so stone-faced to each other most of the time. They're really serious. There's no emotional play off of one another a lot of the time. And maybe that's the point. Maybe they aren't really in love, but they're just trying to get by and survive off of each other. So that could be a reason, but it just, that element, the love element, that just kind of fell flat, and I was like, I have no care for your relationship.
They might have needed some moments of tenderness between themselves. The two of them, because I can't think of too many scenes where it's just them being kind of, like lightly intimate with one another, or like letting their guards down a little bit. It's just like, maybe the point is that like life was just so intense, especially for these individuals who in the course of the movie they fall in love, but they are, acting as slaves. They are slaves in that situation. It's just like, that's what, how else could you live in that situation? Maybe you did have to have your guard up at all times.
Exactly. Well, I think there's only one scene that kind of hits at that element, I think this is not... So again, and Anya Taylor-Joy, Alexander Skarsgård, they're the main love interest, so they sleep together in one scene. Their post-coital discussion, I think that's the only tender moment they really have, apart from them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like, but that's like, okay, that's like the culmination to some degree of the romance. Like the literal metaphorical climax.
But anyway,
no, it's just like there's not a lot of build up to that moment.
I'm sure there's a lot of build up.
Don't. Okay. I let us down the improper path. But no. It's just, like I say, there needed to be a few more moments, I think, to kind of sell me on that, that build-up, that, kind of result. Otherwise, it kind of just felt like, because there's a lot of discussions of fate. It's like, okay, you just fated to hook up, so that's why you hook up.
Yeah.
It's not too far from how that felt to me.
It had the emotional residency of Neo and Trinity's relationship in the original Matrix. There's these stone-faced people. Oh, we're in love, and we're fated to be in love. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I love you now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hell, the Lighthouse, I think, had a better growth of chemistry and romance than anything. Like, seriously,
Yeah, no,
it's
you're right.
entire,
You're right. Yeah, and again, like you say, it deals with more closely with the lack of intimacy and these guys really only having each other. So it's like, okay, that makes sense, and you see the development of that. Yeah, no, that's like the one main element that kind of like flat for me.
Well, and I like that also. Like this kind of going off of more of that is that I feel that the plots of both the Vivitch or the Witch and the Lighthouse were. The main plots were excuses to focus more on the character instead of otherwise. In this, it does feel like it's just focusing more on the plot than the actual characters themselves. There is a fair amount of character analysis.
I mean, there are some twists and discoveries that come later in the film that, again, it's just, I think, because of the pace and what the ultimate goal is. And again, it could be reflective of like the culture that would be telling the story, that we're telling the story. It's like we don't really spend a lot of time with those discoveries, or the character doesn't spend a lot of time absorbing that discovery. Maybe it's just, again, reflective of a living by the skin of your teeth society kind of deal. Like, okay, you take tragedy in relative stride or something, you got to deal with it on some level. You see that in some, depictions of ancient life or the like. Again, like I remember in like the Rome series, people deal with life because people die all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody cares except for the people directly connected to the person that died. That's it.
Yeah.
Even then, you still have to focus on your own survival, or you're just going to die with the rest of them. So either you choose oblivion or you choose life. And again, a lot of pre-Christian or just paganish kind of cultures and stuff. That does seem to just be reflective of it. Life is cheap. Make the best or most out of it as much as you can. Some people are destined for greatness, others aren't, but it doesn't give you the excuse to stop living, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, he did. Again, certain twists are discovered. Weird stuff comes up. I don't know if we're not quite into spoilers yet, but again, it's based off of Hamlet, so you could probably piece some of it together.
I guess we can go into some spoilers right now. Why not?
Yeah, no, his mom's really, really weird about it and was totally into killing his dad.
Yeah, and she's even desperate to, hey, if you kill your uncle, we can hook up and I can work as your queen.
Oh, fuck that. It's so gross and weird.
Yeah. And again, I feel a lot of that's just due to her desperation just to survive. It seems like it's not necessarily that she wants to. Also, at least it could be.
It could speak also to the psychological toll. I mean, again, the other discovery is, no, she wasn't a queen from Britannia. She was kidnapped from her home, sold to Amlethstad, where she was raped and just happened to get pregnant and produce a son, which I guess he ended up taking her as his wife. Which is another thing, is that he was a king that ended up taking a slave as his wife. Which again, I guess lowered in some part his esteem in her eyes too. There's like so much like weird psychological stuff going on there. And her viewing how she viewed Emma's father. Again, there's just a lot of baggage there, which may have led her to be the way she is. Because again, she's cutthroat as all get out, but also clearly troubled on some level. Especially anything that just brings up that past where she had to be married to a rapist.
Completely.
Yeah.
So there's that fun stuff.
Yeah.
That fun stuff to deal with.
Creepy.
And I'm curious to see how people react to the ending. It's kind of your standard fare where the hero he has the possibility of running away with this person he loves and having kind of a happy ending, but he decides to go the selfish route and finish what he originally started. And so, of course, he pays for it and he dies. But he does kill his uncle in the end. So it's like a bittersweet revenge.
But
and, of course,
that's the thing. That is the Viking happy ending. That is, like, he died in battle bravely. He didn't run. And when instead of, like, hey, we can go make a life for each other. Oh, my goodness, you're pregnant. You're having my child. Instead of thinking, like, hey, we're going to start a new life. No, this has to end now. I'm going to complete my journey. I'm going to fulfill my mission, protect my family while doing so. But also, again, I made a vow. I will fulfill it, and that's what that's what Odin wants. That's what the Aesir want. You've made this promise, and you're going to fulfill it, and you're going to die in battle, like he says. Not like some old gray hair. Or die of illness, sickness. No, I am not meant to die here. I'm meant to die in battle. And that's what they want. That's exactly what you want to do if you're a Viking. And
that's what he gets.
Yep. He gets carried off by the Valkyries into Valhalla. That's exactly what they wanted.
But then the underlying thing is the whole mystical element in his head or not? Which I feel like it is mystical. I don't think, but there's there's definitely an interpretation in which people can see that it is a lot of what he's seeing just BS, and he's just
but it's like it's the stories that would be passed down, Yeah,
exactly.
It's almost like we're hearing somebody's description of it. There's a scene where he has to go get a special sword that can only be drawn at night, and he goes and finds this. A Viking burial ground, a grave, which is so cool too. There's this lord that clutches the sword, all desiccated, and he goes over there to grab it, and it comes alive, and he has to fight and defeat it using his wits and strength.
Yeah.
Then suddenly we kind of pan from that victory moment over, and it turns out we're still right back where he's taking the sword from the sitting body. He picks it up and the body collapses. And so again, it's just like that's how it would be told, right? That's that's how it would be passed down. It was a trial that he had to overcome to achieve the sword and achieve this great victory. So again, and like a lot of this director's movies, there is, again, like you say, there's a discussion of whether or not stuff really happening or is it just in their heads.
Yeah. Well, again, the only two examples that make me think that there's something more than just it's being in his head is the fact that one, crows seem to pick him off of his, because there's a scene in which that he's captured from his uncle and he's beaten to a pulp essentially, and he's just hanging by the rafters from his wrists, and I guess Odin's crows come down from the rafters and they start pecking at his bracers,
bindings,
and he falls or his binding, and he falls and he's able to get out of there. And there's also the little other detail too. I think, I'm not sure, maybe it was the guy that he cut his nose, the villain that had his nose cut off by Amleth, but there's a scene in which he's trying to unsheathe the sword and he can't because it's only able to be unsheathed at night, and so there's stuff like that.
Yeah, it's depicting everything that the Vikings would have recognized at the time culturally in terms of like the sacrifices, the rituals, and all that jazz. But again, it's just the depiction of the events that might be altered or mythologized, right? And so that's what we're getting. We're getting kind of the extreme story, and there are certain elements that would be built up, but there is a baseline that might have actually happened. And in this case, again, just a straight up story of revenge with these fantastical elements. Also, didn't realize that when I was thinking about that, because Willem Dafoe, of course, is a jester, shamanistic figure when Amleth is a child, but when he's an adult, he finds out that his character had his ears cut off, his tongue ripped out, his eyes ripped out, as part of his uncle's orders. But
Yeah.
I didn't think about this. It's the alas, poor Yorick sequence. I didn't think
Oh,
about
that's
that.
a good point.
Isn't that wonderful? Because and also Yorick was a jester as well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it was
there's
great.
also I looked at some of the trivia too that there could be a reference to as well. Odin and Mimir. Mimir, of course, had his head cut off.
Yes, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense too. And again, it just it's slightly fantastical, but it's something that maybe they did hold on to certain parts of the body, or to commune with. They thought they could commune with the dead or the like.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, there's been a lot of discussions too about ancient times and different perspectives. As far as if you've convinced yourself that something is a certain way, like you're speaking to you or something like that, then how would that look to the person that is experiencing that moment? That kind of, so again, it feels mythologized, but again, for them, it might have been considered a reality, at least some of these moments in the film. Again, that's the most interesting bit to me. Again, it's a big Viking epic poem, essentially, and you get to feel that. But it's not it. And outside of depicting culture and all that, outside of that, it's not going to be a whole lot more to it. It's not going to be challenging you really emotionally. It's a good revenge story, told.
Yeah, exactly.
It's told extraordinarily well.
Yeah, the acting it does the job. I wouldn't say it's necessarily spectacular, and the action is it does the job, and in the acting too. Alexander Skarsgård does a really good job. He's probably I think he is probably the best performance of the entire. I think he did a really good job. Anya Taylor-Joy was all right. Again, she was a bit more wooden and reserved. Again, maybe that was the whole point of the character. Maybe that's what they necessarily wanted out of her. I thought she did a bit more. She did a better job in the Witch, but but no, it's just a good film overall, and for like a first time commercial film for this director, he stuck the landing pretty well, and I hope he's able to get more projects that he wants to do in the future, and hopefully that Nosferatu film works out for him. So
no, because
overall,
because like every film he makes, it's in addition to cinema and like to add something, and especially historically, there's something wonderful about his films in general. It's like, hey, this is. You see this movie, you're in this world. You are seeing things as they were back in the day. And that is something special. Whether or not, so far, that's been consistent, and whether or not the film's as good in his lexicon so far, to some degree, I'm like, whatever. But what it represents and stuff, I hope the guy, like you say, gets more work, and you can see more from him. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, anyway, I think that is it for our episode. Well, again, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And, oh, never mind. We're not done. I just realized we had some questions. I completely forgot about that. So these are just a couple of questions here. So one question, do you like any of the new Star Trek series? I think it's sort of like Elvis, let him be dead.
We haven't been watching any of them. We don't have CBS or now on Paramount.
I've seen clips. I've seen clips of them. We follow a couple of reviewers that despise them, and to be fair, what they show, I don't think you can really get much of a different viewpoint.
It's Red Letter Media for the record, but
yes.
I keep rewatching it. I try to understand the plots, and it takes multiple viewings of the reviews just to try to make sense of how many stinking crazy plot lines are going on in that thing. Like, I can't imagine trying to sit through the show itself and make heads or tails of stuff, because it seems to engender so much stinking confusion.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw the first episode of Discovery. I thought at least quality-wise, the look of the show, a lot of it seemed good, but again, once you really dig deep into the small details, the implications, the moral implications, it's just a trash heap. That's Alex Kurtzman's fingerprints for you. His touch, whatever he touches burns. It's stupid.
It's not particularly interesting. I was kind of curious when they were going to do Picard, but it's the same people that did Discovery, which I didn't see as a good sign. And
maybe Lower Decks is fine. Again, it's one of the writers of Rick and Morty, and it has the Rick and Morty style to it, so it might be fun. It's got Jack Quaid in it from the boys,
yeah,
and all that stuff. So that might be fine.
Yeah, it looked okay.
But other than that, though, I have no interest apart from the original first 4 series.
To be fair, Ian, I don't know how much interest he had for the original series either.
I watched a fair amount of Star Trek Next Generation.
Okay,
I've gone through a lot of it, and I enjoy it fine.
I thought you just watched it on BBC.
BBC, but then Mom went on Bender and watched the old DVDs at our old house.
Okay.
And I would watch those. So again, I enjoy those fine. I enjoy Star Trek. But yeah, so like all good things, they should come to an end and die with dignity.
It's
but unfortunately,
nice reference to the last episode of TNG, by the way.
Yes, thank you. I try to be eloquent and referential as much as possible. It makes me seem like I'm more intelligent than I actually am at times. Anyway, next question.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think makes the films of the 30s and 40s so special?
Depends on the films, of course.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't prefer too many films from the 30s and 40s apart from the really popular ones. The ones that really try to push the envelope.
They call it the golden age of cinema, but the fact is every generation's got a slew of B movies, stuff made for cheap, just to make a movie, make some quick bucks, and then move on to the next. So but the films that were made at the time, there's always something about black and white. It does have an effect on me, even something that's relatively poorly shot. There is something kind of just stark and beautiful about black and white and all those shades of gray.
Yeah. Well, again, as you said, it depends on the director at the helm. It depends on the artist making the thing. There are bad artists. There are good artists. Again, it's just I think I think it's what makes every director of every generation special. They try. They have the artistic integrity to try new things, to grow, to get the right people at the helm. So I would say for that.
And like a lot of it has to do, because again, you don't have the great effects that we do these days, and you don't have the necessarily even the same, depending on the period, you don't have the same perspective on acting as you do these days. Again, a lot of that, what they call it, Atlantic accent. I forget the very heightened. Kind of, yes, of course. I see what you're talking about. There's that kind of thing. That was something they were just trained in. That was just standard. So again, it kind of comes down to quality of the scripts and the wonderful character interaction. And if it's a good director behind it, like anything, again, quality filmmaking too. There's reasons why things like Citizen Kane and Casablanca are talked about a lot when it comes to talking about just some of the greatest films of all time. And
exactly,
Orson Welles is again really great director, and Citizen Kane is it really is just his magnum opus of beautiful shots and cinematography, but also it's very emotionally complex and dramatic and sad and powerful. While Casablanca, again, there's a lot of fascinating emotions there too, but it's also a fun movie. There's a lot of fun character interactions. You want to see these people talk to one another and bounce off one another. And it was, it's prescient, represents a period of time in World War II, and it was made very near that, it was made in the middle of it, I think.
Exactly.
So that's the stuff that really, holds me in and keeps me coming back. Now, that said, be fair, Ian, we are talking right there strictly about Western cinema. There was a whole bunch of stuff, and or at least American cinema even. There's a lot of European films I haven't seen. There's a lot of, quite a few I have seen.
That's true. That's true.
I admittedly, my experience with other cinema has been more maybe Japanese cinema at the time. I really love a lot of old classic Japanese cinema. Again, all the Kurosawa pictures are great in their own ways. Things like, again, not just samurai films like Seven Samurai and Rashomon and Kagemusha and Ran, but also we get things like Ikiru, which is just a very slice of life. Just breaks my heart every time. Makes me cry, and it hits on an emotional level. And again, it depends on where you go, but there's always going to be creators wherever you look, globally in their line of cinema that are just so focused on zeroing in on a human, a very human, real, emotional experience. And that's what really I tend to connect with in the older films. There is just a sweetness there, tied with everything else we've talked about. But yeah.
Okay. Next question: why can't they let Star Trek and Star Wars go? Because they make a profit and there's an audience for it. Nostalgia. This corporations want to make money. And they're profitable for it. I think it's pretty simple. To
the kind person that keeps bringing up these Star Trek and Star Wars questions. Thank you.
This is actually Grandma this time.
Grandma? Oh, really?
These are all hard questions this round. But no, thank you, John, for our last set of questions. We appreciate that.
I appreciate they keep bringing up. It's good to rant. Yeah, they don't let them die. They want to make money. It's frustrating because they just want to make money.
That's all it is, and they don't want the real talented people to do their own thing. They just want complete control over everything. Simple as that. It's a little general, though. It's they want to make money, and playing on people's nostalgia makes money. I'll say that more specific. Sometimes they'll give them a little bit more free reign. We've seen that transition for the Marvel films to some degree. It's not entirely, but they kind of let certain directors okay, you kind of do your own thing with this. You still have to put this, and this in the thing, but you can make it your own way. And I get kind of tired. At least for Warner Brothers, they're just going for the route of, if we get a good film director, they'll do whatever regarding our properties. Just let them do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of leaning toward that now because I'm getting tired of hearing how studios have to throw in, or at least for Marvel, they have to tell their directors, hey, you're going to have this, but wait, we have to change this now because we're trying to think of the overall narrative of the arc of the story. Well, great, now we have to switch that around. We have to remove these scenes. It's just it's just kind of playing by committee at this point. And
to be fair, nobody makes a film. Well, not nobody, but few people make a film alone. And
of course,
you hear about that a lot of hey, the producers say, we're getting money from these advertisers. You need to include these things in the thing. Otherwise, it makes some. I understand that it is still a business, but I just think, like we've been talking about, the focus is so much emphasized on trying to please as wide an audience as possible, rather than what's the best thing for the story, or the art becomes secondary, and I think that's really when the properties end up suffering. Some,
totally.
It's how it is. But frustrating, but it is what it is.
Okay, for the last question, what is more important to you in a movie? The actors, the script/story, or the special effects? Probably it's probably be a tie between the actors and the story. You have to have emotional investment in the characters that you create. If you don't, then there's no point to the overall story. There's no point for you to watch the story if you don't care about anybody in it. And then special effects, I mean, they help. Most of the time you want decently made special effects, but again, if it's a film that doesn't have that many special effects, then again, it's mostly based around the actors and the story, and just connecting to those most of all.
Everything else is a tool for the story, in my opinion, right? It's just you have to have something, a story that's worth telling, that's interesting, has some sort of hook to it, emotionally, dramatically, just in terms of like adventure or what have you. But everything else is in service of that story. The story is not in service of the actors necessarily. It depends, of course, this depends on the director, though, too. Again, the creator. Sometimes they have a very bare bones script, and it's about working with the actors and what they find at that time. Yeah. But that's how I feel. I've always felt like, again, that story is the rock and core, molten core of this, kind of planet you're creating. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Again, I am definitely more attracted to a film if the acting and stuff, the performances are going to be good, and there's a consistency there. But if that story is something, I mean, it can overcome a lot for me.
Exactly.
But same thing with the acting. A good actor can overcome a really crappy scene.
To an extent.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, but we've seen that a number of times. Like, this is a really awful movie, but that one actor, they're bringing it, man. They at least make it pleasant. It doesn't overcome everything, but it does make things better.
It makes it better, yeah, I suppose. But, okay. Well, I think that's about it for our show, then. If you like our content and want to support the show, then please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really do appreciate the support either way. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Take care.